Meet Julie Esner. Congratulations.
Thank you. Which way? All right. Thank you so much. Poet Minnie Bruce Pratt writes, I often think of a poem as a door that opens into a room where I want to go. I think of my work as opening doors for lesbians, doors that invite all of us to know the vital role of lesbians in broad cultural conversations. Bread and wine and delicious chicken dinners feed our bodies. Poetry and cultural work feed our souls. Women in relationships with other women, women who build their lives centered around other women, are vital contributors to the music of our soul. My work is to preserve their words. My work helps us to hear their music. I'm grateful to Women's E-News and Rita Henley Jensen for this recognition. I'm thrilled to be recognized with these 20 other phenomenal women. I extend my continuous gratitude and love for my wife, Kim Sherrill. She's here with me tonight, and she makes all my work possible. And I will just say, we have a New York marriage that then a couple years ago was recognized as a national marriage by President Obama, and we're hoping becomes legal in every state at the end of June this year. So I just want to end by reading a poem by Alana Dykewoman. It's from her collection of new and selected poems, What Can I Ask?, that I just published as a Sinister Wisdom Sapphic Classic. It's very brief. She writes, if you were my home, I would be your garden. If I was your garden, I would want you to cultivate me, to plant water, weed, harvest, and like I promised, I would feed you. You can always eat what straggles up or what's gone to seed, but nothing will be as sweet as the taste of a woman you tended purposefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Marketing whiz Preston McCurry Jr., along with his son Chris McCurry, used their technical savvy to develop an online database that lists all the domestic violence shelters in the United States just by typing in a zip code at www.domesticshelter.org. Through his philanthropic efforts, McCurry has also raised more than $49 million in support of domestic violence shelters in Arizona as a way to address the abuse that his wife experienced as a child. Please welcome Preston McCurry.
Honorees, guests, Womenese News. This is a very happy evening for me and very sad. Happy because all the people who helped raise that $49 million and donate money are truly being honored tonight. Sad because I'm the only man being honored. We need to change that. I am always asked why. And the answer to that is a woman named Teresa who was both my most tragic moment in life and my greatest success in life. Tragic because she was the wife, my love of my life for 16 years, and massively, sadonically tortured and abused as a child of 4 years old in a remote mountaintop village in Italy. She was kidnapped, brought to an orphanage in Rome, adopted by a wonderful American family, and as time went on, she and I met, we married, and the scars, both emotional and physical, ended up in our marriage. We sought help from a variety of psychologists, 2 hours a week, 52 weeks a year for 10 years. At the end of which time, we were advised to go to Italy and find her roots, which we did. Returning home, several days later, she simply disappeared from my life. No message, no phone call, no letter. 7 years later, she resurfaced with these words, "I think it's time for us to sit down and talk." And we did. And I asked the question, "Why did you leave?" She said, "I just had to, but I have always loved you. There was nothing wrong with you as a husband that I didn't create out of the abuse of my childhood." In the depths of my mortal depression, I had an epiphany, and that was to do something about child abuse and domestic violence. And that wonderful epiphany became my purpose in life. We all wonder why we are here. My good fortune is I know it is to combat family violence and child abuse. I leave for Italy tomorrow because the love of my life died in August. And before she did, she called and asked that I do two things. One, deliver her eulogy, which I did. And two, that I would carry her ashes back to the mountaintop town in remote Italy. And that I will do tomorrow. Thank you very much, and we honor her tonight.
Thank you. Beautiful, moving story. Now it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Gita Mehta, a professor at Columbia, where she teaches architecture, planning, and preservation. To reduce the poverty and powerlessness of women in India, Gita has developed a virtual currency for monetizing women's work towards social good. This virtual currency, social capital credits, can be redeemed for education, skills building, healthcare, childcare, and even pay for electricity. Please meet Gita Mehta.
I'm honored to be here amongst so many wonderful people who have done great things. Thank you. I'm really pleased to share with you the work that our group, Asia Initiatives, a nonprofit organization I founded 15 years ago, has been doing. A lot of our board members and supporters are right here. So we started actually 15 years ago because there was so much to be done for women and in terms of poverty alleviation. So we started with microcredit banks. We had 200 of them. We did village knowledge centers in remote villages where not even a road went. But then every project we did, one thing became very clear, that the poverty was money poverty, but the communities were strong. And we called that strength social capital. And we thought, wow, this is amazing. These people can do so much with so little money. So it was time to challenge the concept that everything can be measured in money. And a lot of these, thank you. A lot of this social capital was being built and nurtured by women, but their work was invisible. So social capital credits, which we call SOCs, and to challenge the money concept, we have a SOC market instead of a stock market. So we work with each community very closely in a Socratic dialogue. So these communities are actually saying what their needs are and what are they willing to do for them. And we create menus. There's a SOC earning menu, which could have things like planting trees, taking care of the neighborhood, waste management, mentoring young people, and so on. And then on the SOX redeeming side, there are things like you said, healthcare, education, skill upgradation, and things you need to get out of poverty. So we started this a number of years ago, and now we are in 5 countries. We are in Ghana. Susan's my partner there, and somebody was talking about market women. And yes, we started with market women in Ghana, and so that project is thriving. Lives have been changed. We are also starting in Kenya. We have 7 projects in India. And one really good moment in our work was when the government of a small town in Costa Rica asked us to set up a SOX system for them because they thought, well, this could work so well, it would be very helpful to the government. So we are, the work has expanded, and till now we have done everything on paper passbooks, but now we just created, with the help of our board members here, and our team members who are here, thanks to everybody, thanks to Eva, we have created a digital platform so anybody, anywhere, can set up their own project on our stock market and begin to transform communities, not hampered by money poverty, not waiting for a government or somebody else to come and do it, but with the strength of social capital. So I'm delighted to be here to share that with you.
Congratulations.
As a soft-spoken and bright child, I was told throughout my childhood that if you speak positive things into your life, your words will come to pass. Even though I've been a reporter since I was 9 years old, it wasn't until I joined Teen Voices that I fully grasped the concept that believing words had the power to change reality. In the past year, Teen Voices has hired me to report on sexual harassment in schools, the role of texting in abusive teen relationships, and this morning's lead story on Women's E-News, a profile of a woman who petitioned the courts to get an abortion when she was 17 without her parents' permission. Each of these pieces challenged me as a journalist, as a young woman, and as a writer. Teen Voices believed in me to shed light on these issues that will otherwise be kept in the dark. My work was part of its virtual newsroom, but the constant encouragement, queries, and response from my editors and mentors never made me feel alone or isolated. The technology encouraged me to conquer my challenges and reform the bounds of possibility. For example, throughout my entire life, I have seen my mother struggle as a single parent to give me what she wasn't promised. No matter what came at her, she always made sure I had a chance to redefine what it meant to be great. As an elementary school student and budding journalist, sometimes this meant sleeping at my mom's job because I couldn't travel alone and she could not afford to take off of work. Another great person that inspired me to believe in my potential, like Teen Voices has, is my late father, Titus Walker. Before passing away of colon cancer in 2009, he told me, "Sometimes all you need is one person to say, 'I see things differently.'" In my life, that person is Teen Voices. It's not easy for Women's E-News and Teen Voices to fight the norm, to beat the squeaky wheel, but its strength acts as a disruptive force. And as much as my parents have supported me, Teen Voices has pushed me. It has given me the skill of perseverance and told me that life is not always fair, but you have the power to make the most out of it. Teen Voices changes the lives of every young writer it works with and gives them the leadership skills needed to take flights above the ordinary and soar further into what's possible rather than what's inevitable. Teen Voices allows me to use my voice as a tool for change. For example, my former high school now uses my story, Texting Tangles with Abuse in Teen Relationships, as a reading assignment in health courses to teach students about the dark side of social media. Above all, Teen Voices inspires me to continue my career in journalism, and with every story, I'm getting closer to a professional career I've dreamt about since I was a child. I'm currently a freshman at SUNY Oswego, 300 miles north of this hotel. Because of school policy, I'm not able to take journalism courses, yet recently I was offered and accepted the position of assistant news editor of my college newspaper. Without the help, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Without the help of Teen Voices, this would not be possible. Teen Voices taught me to challenge my limits, to challenge the limits others have set for girls like me, and gives me a path that will help me reach my dreams and change the world with media. Thank you.
Well, actually, Dr. Wagner initially asked Matilda Jocelyn Gage if she would accept the award on her behalf, because Dr. Wagner's honor is really because of her work in uncovering the amazing legacy of my coworker, Matilda Jocelyn Gage. But I beseech Mrs. Gage to let me be with you instead tonight on my 200th anniversary, because Matilda is only 189. I have several messages for you. First of all, I know how difficult it is for a woman in the newspaper business. My newspaper, The Revolution, which I edited with Susan B. Anthony and Parker Pillsbury, was lost because of lack of finances. Mrs. Gage's paper, which lasted twice as long, at 4 years, eventually went to the creditors as well. But now that you women have control of your own money, it is essential that you support your women's rights press. As Mrs. Gage said, from those to whom much is given, much is expected. And since you have your pocketbooks out, I want to also inform you that my home in Tenafly, New Jersey, has just become available for sale. And I have a deep fear that it will be snatched up by our enemies and my memory will be defiled. It is important that that home be a place to remember my important work, demanding that the church stop encroaching on the government and limiting our rights, and ensuring that every child born is chosen. And that every woman has the right to choose to birth or not, depending upon her judgment, her conscience, and her desire. I see that you echo the sentiments. And some of you may be pleased to know that I have determined to go back on the lecture circuit. And once again, I will make the clergy dance like parched peas on a hot stove. And should there be any still around, I will give those conservative fossils a good knock on the head. I suppose I should say something about this Sally Rush Wagner, who is receiving the award tonight. But I must confess that she has the advantage on me. She seems to know a great deal about me. She's just issued a series of chapbooks of my edited writings. But frankly, I have never met her. But I must warn you, I have been informed that she is impersonating me in public. And I ask you to be vigilant, lest you be fooled. Thank you.
Dr. Rochelle Seidel is the founder and executive director of the Remember the Women Institute. She's the leader of a new wave of research and writing about the experiences of Jewish women in the Nazi genocide, a crucial part of our history. Women have been written out of history in general, she says, and the Holocaust is no exception. By curating exhibitions, lecturing internationally, and publishing numerous articles and books, she's making sure that the story of the Jewish women who suffered and died in the Holocaust is part of the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Women's E-News for this honor and congratulate all of the esteemed honorees. It's wonderful to be here this evening. Yes, I think everyone in this room does know, including Elizabeth Cady Stanton, that women have been left out of history, and I'm working to try and change that in Holocaust history in particular. This started in 1980 when I had the rare opportunity to go to Ravensbrück Women's Concentration Camp, which almost no Westerner could get to. And it was in East Germany. And it really was a double whammy for me. There were two serious problems. First, almost no one in the West ever heard about this major women's Nazi concentration camp. And secondly, when I actually got there, there was no evidence in the camp at all that any Jewish woman had been a prisoner there. So this is what started me on my journey. I was with a colleague that day, and he said that I went crazy that day. And I think maybe he's right, and it was a good kind of crazy, because this is what got me working on trying to give women their place in Holocaust history. So, since that day, 35 years ago, through Remember the Women Institute, I've worked to try to change the narrative so that women's experiences as women are an important part of the Holocaust story. Remember the Women Institute has produced books, museum exhibits, events, films, academic programs, all geared to telling the varied stories, the many different kinds of stories of women during the Holocaust. By the way, one of our books is about the sister, Gemma, of our own New York City Mayor, Fiorella LaGuardia, and she was a Jewish prisoner in Ravensbrück concentration camp, and I edited her memoir, which was published by Syracuse University. Maybe Sally or Elizabeth would like to know about that, because they seem to be from Syracuse. And, well, one of the, to get serious, one of the most important things I think that the Remember the Women Institute did was introducing the subject of sexual violence during the Holocaust. My colleague who's here this evening, Sonia Hedgepeth, and I did a book, edited a book in 2010, and this subject of sexual violence during the Holocaust still today is really difficult to get into the narrative, and many of the establishment Holocaust institutions don't want to talk about it, although we continue to try. We recently created a handbook, a resource handbook on women theater in the Holocaust. My colleague Karen Schulman, who's here, did this with me, and we think it's a very important way to memorialize the Holocaust in the future when young people don't really know about it, and unfortunately, since this is the 70th anniversary of liberation of concentration camps, we're not going to have survivors with us forever, and this dramatization becomes more and more important. And another thing we're trying to do is highlight some of the heroines of the Holocaust who you didn't hear about. You heard about Anne Frank, but there are a lot of other women that really did some heroic acts during the Holocaust. One of them is Haviva Reich, who was from Slovakia, and we're going to be co-sponsoring the film premiere of a movie about her produced in Slovakia. This will be on June 3 in New York, and you're all invited. And if you look at our website, rememberwomen.org, you'll find out about that and about all of our other projects. This recognition is really not for me. I believe it's for all of the women who were victims of the Holocaust, those who survived, and those who unfortunately did not. And I just want to finish by saying, just as it is our duty to understand what they endured then, it's also our obligation to do all we can today to prevent violence against all women. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before we close out the night, we just want to reintroduce Diane Dylan Ridgely. She's going to stand up and tell us one last thing.
And I could probably check all I don't even get to try. But, you know, this is the 15th anniversary, and it's a very, very special anniversary. I've been coming to this since 2005. And aside from being honored this year, we thought we should do something different. So we now think of ourselves as a class. And the class of 2015 wants to institute the fact that we, as a class of honorees, recognize how important and how critical the work of Women in E-News is. So we are giving a class gift back to Women's E-News, and we hope we establish that as a tradition that each class, and we're starting with a minimum of $2,100, $100 from each of us, but I already know some of us are gonna give a little bit more. And all of you can give too, but we are doing a class gift, and it is to be the next in the new tradition that each class of honorees acknowledges how important this work is, so we give back to you.
Thank you, Diane. What a great idea. And I'm sure that our class, my class of 2012, will take you up on that. Absolutely.
Thank you. And we have to run. Thank you so much, and we will see you next year. Yes.
Subscribe to Women's E-News. Subscribe.
Yes.
Sign up at Equal Means Equal. Buy Julie's poems and vote every chance you get. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
See you next year.
See you next year.